Developing Natural Flavor. We appreciate your participation in the Sodium Project. It's our intention to work with you to ease data collection and develop your skills and abilities to influence the food environment in your schools for the long-term health of our students. The presenters today and project partners are Heidi Dupuis, Manager of School Nutrition Program, Deb Johnson, Principal Evaluator for the project with the Oregon Research Institute, and Laura Drezen, Child Nutrition Operations Analyst, and she'll be the point of contact for the project. This is our agenda for the webinar. We're currently in the welcome and introduction phase. Next, we will go on to project background, followed by data collection, then participant or project support, and we'll end with a brief summary and a period for your questions. If you have questions or need to communicate with the presentation team, please use the chat feature in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. Next page. Let's begin with the project background. The purpose of the Sodium Project, Developing Natural Flavor, is to reduce the sodium exposure in a large group setting by changing the food environment. Often with dietary changes, people are asked to make individual choices. The success of this approach is dependent on a person's motivation. Food habits are established at a young age and can be challenging to change. The thinking behind this project is, what if we change the food environment, what's offered and how it's presented, and let people follow their usual eating patterns? The project uses tests 4 strategies to reduce sodium in the food environment. We'll get into the details of the strategy shortly. At this point, you just need to know that there are 4. Through your activities by using the strategies, we are as interested in what works as what doesn't. With the delay in implementing Target 2 sodium in the National School Lunch and School Breakfast programs, we have time to be intentional with how we make these changes. The Sodium Project is funded through a Centers for Disease Control and Prevention grant. The Oregon Health Authority is the grantee. The Oregon Research Institute is providing data analysis. The Food Innovation Center supports recipe change, product development, and connection with manufacturers. The Oregon State Corrections, Oregon State Hospital, and schools through the Oregon Department of Education are collaborators implementing the grant strategies. The grant is a 5-year grant, re-evaluated on an annual basis. In school year 16-17, the grant's first year, Bethel and Rainier school districts participated. They provided baseline data for their school districts and helped refine the data collection process. In school year 17-18 will be the second year of the grant. You may be asking yourself, why sodium? What makes it so important? Heart disease and stroke continue to be leading causes of death in the United States. In Oregon, heart disease is the leading cause of death. We often think fat when we think or hear heart disease, but sodium is just as important. Diets high in sodium can increase blood pressure, leading to a greater risk of heart disease and stroke. 1 in 9 children have high blood pressure. Our preference for salt is learned through exposure. Over time, one can come to prefer the natural flavor of foods with less salt. Changing the salt content can have a positive impact on health. Establishing a preference for flavors that are not dependent on sodium as a child can create a lifetime pattern. Sodium is used in our bodies to maintain fluid balance, muscle contractions, and conduct nerve impulses. The body does not have storage for sodium. It comes in through our food and leaves through our skin and kidneys. Sodium in our food can be naturally occurring. Milk and green beans are examples of food that have sodium naturally. Salt is made up of two elements, sodium and chloride. We use salt in our food as a preservative, think salt brine and salt cured meat, to maintain the food's texture and color and flavoring. Sodium is also a component in the leavening agent baking soda as sodium bicarbonate, and monosodium glutamate, or MSG, is a flavoring ingredient that also contains sodium. These are the top 10 sources of sodium in children from 6 to 18 years old. Pizza, Mexican mixed dishes, sandwiches, breads and rolls, cold cuts and cured meats, soups, savory snacks, cheese, plain milk, and poultry. You may recognize many of these as being parts of our school lunch menu. Don't be dismayed by this list. Think of it as a list of opportunities for positive impact. Sodium is measured in milligrams. The Dietary Guidelines for Americans recommends an intake of 2,300 milligrams per day for the general population. The average intake for school-aged children is 3,051 to 3,565 milligrams. 9 out of 10 children consume more than the recommended amount of sodium. The recommended calorie level for the general population is 2,200. You can see that they're very close, 2,300 milligrams of sodium and 2,200 calories. This creates a useful rule of thumb for evaluating products. The calories and sodium content should be about the same per serving to meet the sodium recommendations. This slide shows the sodium targets 1 and 2 for the school meals program. For breakfast, the calorie range across the grade levels is 350 calories to 600 calories. For lunch, the calorie range across grade levels is 550 calories to 850 calories. You can see that the target levels are higher than the recommended that the target 1 levels are higher than the recommended levels for sodium, and our target 2 levels will get us much closer to meeting the recommended level on a daily basis. The project strategies are setting a sodium limit for the organization. For schools, we have inherently target 1, but you could choose as a participant to have a lower sodium limit. Changing recipes and preparation techniques to reduce sodium and enhance flavors. Purchase and substitute low sodium versions of routine food products. And implementing environmental behavior change strategies. These strategies are very broad, and as participants, you'll be working on smaller strategies, perhaps 1 product or recipe at a time. The focus is the school meals program rather than items offered through a la carte. Now we'll cover the data collection requirements for the project. Deb Johnson from the Oregon Research Institute will lead us through this section.
Okay.
Deb, are you there? I think she's on mute. But she may be personally on mute. There we go.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay, good, awesome. I've been talking, but I didn't know if I was unclicking or what. So, hello, I'm Deb Johnson Shelton from Oregon Research Institute, and we're conducting the evaluation for this project. For what we are in this research project, data always needs to be collected, and so that's our role in supporting our partners in the schools in that endeavor. And the first round of data collection actually for each of our schools serves as a baseline so that we can look at that for later comparisons to see what changes are being made. And the same data is collected at regular intervals each year to evaluate the impact of activities on school environments and their meal practices. So for the sodium project, we need 6 weeks of information. As Heidi mentioned, we were working with Department of Corrections and Oregon State Hospital, and so we're all using a 6-week window of time. And so the school data collection period that we thought would be the best would be to begin in October 2nd this year, and then we'll go through November 10th, and that will give us a 6-week window. And this will allow schools to have a chance to kind of settle in with the new school year before we actually start to look at this information gathering. Okay, so the data collection documents are very similar to those that are collected for the administrative review at ODE. The data collection documents you will need to provide include the sodium practice assessment tool. This is a survey, and I'll talk a little more about that, that you do online. Menus, the 6-week menus used in the schools, production records, nutrition analysis, recipes and nutrition fact labels, and then purchasing records. And we're going to now go over each of these items, and if there are any questions, you can just chime right in. So with the SPAT, we've adapted this tool a little bit to our specific project. It's a survey, and we have information that we're collecting to really understand sort of the context of every school or food environment, to kind of understand your practices, number of children served, those types of things. It's completed for each grade level menu. So for schools, districts, we're looking at elementary school as one level, middle school as another, and then high school as another, and that's because typically the menus are consistent for each of those grade level sectors in the school district. So we only need to have a menu for each one of those. Now, if there are differences, of course, then we definitely would want to see those, but our experience is that they're pretty uniform at those grade levels. And then what we will do is actually working with ODE, we'll have the name of the person that's completing the SPAT, and we will send you then an email link, and then you'll complete the SPAT on the web for us, and that's what we'll save your information there, and provide that information back to you actually at the end of the year when we've finished looking at all the data. And then you will also need a copy of your menus for October 2nd to November 10th. An October and November menu calendar is fine. That's typically, it's something that's often put on websites and shared with families and all that, so that would be fine. The menus need to be for each grade level, again, that will be participating in the project. So again, elementary, middle, and high school. You will also need to provide daily production records for that same 6-week window, October 2nd to November 10th, for breakfast as well as lunch. And so the production records need to be from the participating schools. So that would also include condiments, additions and substitutions made to the actual meal compared to what was planned, and then provide clear descriptions of all the products as well, like canned peaches and fruit juice or USDA canned corn, that type of thing, so that we really understand the food that's being served to children in a clear way. Then the next Another piece of information we need then would be the nutrient analysis of the breakfast and lunch menu. That if you do that routinely in-house, we'll use that. If you need assistance on that, ODE Lauren will help you with that to get that documentation. And this is really an important part of our evaluation because this document is needed on the daily analysis, and this is how we really can determine change over time, and that includes sodium. So, and also a weekly summary. So we need breakfast and lunch daily, and then a weekly summary, and the analysis is weighted by the number of portions offered to the school children during the week. And as I mentioned, if you're not doing the nutrient analysis yourself, if that's not something you're able to do, ODE will help perform that function with you. So with recipes, we also need, for the menu items that are made or assembled from 2 or more ingredients, we will need the recipes. And this is also an important part of what we're looking at. The yield for the recipe may be for a sandwich or many for a mixed dish. So it depends, like teriyaki chicken, something like that. The numbers of servings must be for the determined portion size. So this is another main thing. So the nutrition fact labels will be needed from the heat and serve menu items for commercially served breads, frozen and baked items, and meats, canned goods and condiments. All those things, we need their nutrition fact labels. So this is all the information that's purchased and USDA Foods because of the variation between manufacturers. And that is one of the things that we're looking at to see how the products meet the specifications and with what is being planned in the schools. So we're really finding that tens of milligrams can really make a difference over a day and a week. So this variation is really important to look at and have clear information about. So then the final piece of information we need is on purchasing records, and this is because the project's really interested in the cost of making product changes, as this is one of the strategies that might be used to actually reduce sodium in menu offerings. So high cost is often given as a reason for not selecting sodium foods, actually. So this is a very important thing for us to track. So you can request from your distributors a volume report for the time period that reflects purchases that are needed to produce the menus for this period that we're looking at, October 2nd through November 10th. And we need the item description for this. We need the item description, the unit, and the cost per unit. So for the dates due, fall is our data collection time period with the schools. So we're wanting to receive finalized FAT responses from you by October 15th, the middle of October. And then we want the menus, the recipes, the procurement documentation as soon as that's possible. Usually we're finding that for a lot of schools, this is already planned out for the year. The recipes are already in place, and the procurement has already occurred. So if that's available sooner, that makes it a lot easier for us at ORI to start to look at the data and begin to analyze it. And then the production records actually would be this last item, and we're asking that we get that from you by Thanksgiving on November 22nd, because we know that then it starts to be a very challenging time of the year for everyone with the holidays and whatnot. So we're trying to get this completed with everyone by then. And that's sort of the overview of what we're doing for data collection in the project. So now I'll turn this back over to Heidi and Lauren to talk about project support.
Thanks, Deb. And we're going to have Lauren present on project support.
Great, thanks, Heidi. So my name is Lauren Dressen, and I'm an operations and policy analyst with the Oregon Department of Education. And I'm going to be your direct contact throughout this project. So I'm sure you're wondering what supports are going to be available to you throughout this process. And I want to really reiterate that you're not alone in this, and that folks at the Department of Education, as well as the Oregon Research Institution, the Food Innovation Center, and also Oregon Health Authority, we're all here to help you get through this process and collect the data that we need from you, and to also work with you through the strategies. So some of the supports that we've identified so far are going to be phone coaching, on-site assistance with data collection if some of these things are more difficult or your district doesn't have the capacity to collect all of these things. We'll be able to offer support there. If you don't currently do a nutrient analysis, that's something that we can assist with as well. We'll also be holding bi-monthly webinars, an annual celebration, and then for any in-person events that we hold, we can help with a stipend for travel costs. And so with those bi-monthly webinars, some of the topics that we've identified so far that we think would be helpful, and we're certainly open to suggestions of what would be most helpful for you, are writing product specifications, introducing new foods to students, applying behavioral economics, flavor enhancement techniques, program marketing, and modifying recipes. So like I said, if there's anything as we move forward in this process and get further into this project and you start implementing strategies, please send your recommendations to us, and we can try to incorporate those into our webinars. I'll go ahead and turn it back over to Heidi here to give us a summary.
So in closing, for our webinar portion, as far as the presentation, we'll summarize the project contacts and timeline. This slide contains our contact information for Lauren, Deb, and myself. We'll be sending out a contact list and FAQ following this presentation with the contacts and key dates. So I understand that this is maybe a lot of information to take in, and we don't want you to be anxious or feel like you've missed anything. We'll also send out a recorded version of this presentation for your future reference. So for this presentation, the project timeline is by October 15th. The SPAT survey is completed online through REDCap, and you'll receive that link in an email from the Oregon Research Institute. By November 15th, ODE will be working with you to set up your strategy plan. And then for data collection, as soon as your menus, recipes, and purchasing records are available for the collection period of October 2nd through 10th, we will accept those. And no later than November 22nd to submit your production records and nutrient analysis. The data collection materials will be submitted to Lauren at ODE. She will check them for completeness and follow up with any questions. This will make it simpler for ORI to do their evaluation. And then Lauren will send that information directly to the Oregon Research Institute for analysis. And then as participants from November through May, you'll implement your strategy and provide feedback to ODE and ORI. and also attend the bi-monthly webinars and annual meeting. So at this point, we will move on to your questions. And I think we'll just go ahead and unmute all the lines and take them orally, since there's only 2 folks on the call, and we'll just handle it like a conference call. So Lynn or Elaine, do you have any questions for us? Unmute your phones, please. Probably the one and only time you'll ever hear on a webinar. Unmute your phone, right? All right. Oh, you know, Elaine has her hand up. I don't know what that means. 16 minutes. Okay. All right. Hearing no questions from anyone, we'll go ahead and sign off for today. Thank you for attending our Sodium Project Developing Natural Flavors webinar. It will be repeated next Thursday from 1:30 to 2:30. Have a nice afternoon.
Thank you so much.